supply chain development. This could come in collaboration with NGOs to distribute the kits. Identifying populations in countries that actually need kits, so identifying those specific hunter communities where the kits would be distributed to. Getting government agencies on board for buy-in and support, and spreading awareness about the kit, like the importance of the kit and how it can be used, and how that global partnership can actually happen. So that's Hunters Helping Hunters.
I have a question. How acceptable are these hunters' kits in certain countries, and how confident are you that they are going to be accepted when you donate them kits?
The question is how acceptable would they
Yes.
be in a developing country?
For instance, yes.
That is currently unknown. We think that if we were to be able to if we were to pilot this and assess whether or not it would be something that would be taken on, we could move from there to make it more global. So I think that could be something that we could assess when we would do a pilot for that.
I would like to add this, and one big thing is education for hunters, and that goes with the kit.
And I particularly liked your point about the sample detection or testing possibilities. Could you tell me a little bit more about how you thought about the incentives that have to be aligned to allow that to happen, and where the lab should go in funding for all of that in your cost model?
So we didn't think specifically about how the samples would get sent back to a lab to be tested. But like we said about education, as people are made more aware of zoonotic transmission from wildlife that they've hunted, they may have more of an incentive to return the samples to a lab to be tested if they understand that it's for a great public health benefit.
Which would be the most important component of the kit in your mind? Because gloves are available everywhere, disinfection kits also. So it would be maybe simple to have a copy. So what would be the uniqueness of the initiative and of the kit?
So the gloves that we're presenting are like hunter-specific gloves instead of just like latex or like medical gloves. They actually protect your entire arm. So that's kind of the uniqueness of the glove itself.
Animal biologists should get ready.
Hello everyone, my name is Will. This is Ashley. And this is footprints. Yeah. Okay, so the theme of this hackathon is climate and health. And there's a lot of evidence linking CO2 emissions to adverse health impacts. And climate change has become a clear driver of humanitarian need. But providing health, humanitarian, and relief services is energy intensive, especially when performed at an industrial scale. Barriers of urgency, security, reliability, and infrastructure all make greening humanitarian interventions difficult, and Tesla is yet to invent an electric cargo plane. After the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, humanitarian relief generated 1.14 million tons of CO2, which is the equivalent of putting 240,000 vehicles on the road for a year, or another way, that's the same total CO2 generated by all UN peacekeeping operations for an entire year. So that's a lot of CO2. So it's clear that our interventions have impacts, some positive, some negative, and some are still invisible. I first realized this problem when I was in the Philippines after Typhoon Haiyan. Humanitarian practitioners need a tool to easily assess their environmental impact of our operations and interventions so we can improve operational efficiency on the ground, in the field, where it counts. Because we know that how we intervene matters, and we can't address this problem unless we can see it. Most importantly, by evaluating and understanding the environmental impact we have, we as health and humanitarian practitioners truly fulfill our commitment and our responsibility to first do no harm.
So this is Footprint. It's a tool to evaluate the impact of humanitarian interventions. And our solution looks like a web deliverable that leverages the data that's already being tracked by these organizations. So initially, to start a mission estimate, there's a quick 10-question survey. The answers to these surveys are then fed into an emissions calculator on the back end, which is modeled off of emissions calculators that are already available. It then outputs an emissions score or an impact score and breaks it down into 4 major categories. After an initial mission estimate is provided, the idea is that the organizations can upload their existing log files to update the information, eliminating manual entry. So the value is really to enable easy access to digestible information, improve energy efficiency, which really ends up lowering operating costs, and really accomplish more mission for the same amount of funds. For instance, the British Red Cross saved about £500,000 by transitioning their supply chain to a more energy efficient route. So this also has the added benefit of increasing visibility and PR, as well as creating financially and environmentally sustainable solutions, and possibly as a metric to inform donors for contributions. Our path forward really focuses on building the web prototype, partnering with organizations to deploy in existing mission settings, getting feedback, evaluating, revising, and improving the system, and then building in complexity and integration with existing systems. One such example is the World Food Program is building a platform to support efficient supply chain management in pandemic response. This tool could easily be fit into that platform or similar platforms. The business model really intends to target the larger response organizations with established long-term humanitarian programs to start with, and have a revenue plan of a tiered approach, first with access to the standard tool, and then the second, a consulting style service to tailor the integration into existing supply chain management tools or financial tools. So our team is poised to respond to this because we have a diverse set of backgrounds. We also have connections to organizations to really iterate through application and development, and are passionate about providing sustainable health and humanitarian response. So currently the information is not easily accessible, and please join us to design a sustainable response.
So I can imagine in any response initiative, the first 2 questions that people ask are, how many people can I save, and what's the cost of that? Do you guys have any understanding or insight on where the environmental impact currently is in that sort of hierarchy decisioning?
Very low, especially in response settings, particularly like after an earthquake in Haiti. Probably the last thing that responders are going to be thinking about initially. But if you integrate into existing humanitarian programming that with big response organizations that are already doing the work on the ground, then you're able to approach that question without it compromising the positive impact on beneficiaries.
Then does this tool, will it take into account sort of the cost-benefit analysis of, I can use BPA-free water bottles, or I could save X 100,000 people? Like, does it have a higher weighting factor on lives saved versus ecological impact?
Yeah, ideally that's the dream. In most research has shown that increasing operational efficiency and making your organization more green is also cheaper. So you kind of hit 2 birds with 1 stone. So I haven't yet seen a study that proves that otherwise, but if it's out there, then you have to model your calculations differently, of course.
How is it used? Is it used at the beginning of an intervention, in the middle, at the end, for the future intervention, for the...
Ideally, it would be real time, but this, of course, is initially would be approaching the planning managers of these major humanitarian organizations that would be able to use the web-based platform to look at how much CO2 has already been emitted by the previous responses, so they can plan strategically for the next response.
So there are emissions calculators that are available, but they are more focused on, like, if I want to find out what my emissions calculator is, this is how much I fly, this is what I have at my house.
There's nothing for a humanitarian organization on the ground.
Q808 should be ready here for our next.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are Animal Village. Oh, never mind. Well, we are Animal Village.
Victorian.
Raphael, can you close my laptop? I think Dropbox is running. Close,
There we
right,
go.
close it.
Okay, we are Animal Village, and we would like you all to imagine for a moment that you are in the Mongolian countryside, so that I can introduce you to my friend Soybul, who is a nomadic pastoralist. This morning, Soybul got up and he sent his herd out to pasture and noticed that there was a goat down. So he approached her and found these lesions. He had never seen this before, so he took some photos with his phone and texted it over to his brother. Turns out his brother has never seen this before either, and their vet wouldn't be able to come out to this remote location for at least a few days, if not longer. So what does Soybul do? He doesn't know how big of a problem this is. He doesn't know if it's contagious. Also, the livestock sector in Mongolia is a huge portion of their economy, so the government would like to know what this is and if it's going to become a bigger problem. There are pharmaceutical companies who would love to provide the Mongolian government and Soybul with a solution to this problem, but they don't know what's happening either. What if there was an online platform where Soybul could have uploaded those initial photos with information about the context and gotten feedback in real time from his neighbors in the community, as well as immediately notifying the government and pharmaceutical companies so they could have real-time information and spatial data about this problem.
The specific pain point that we're solving here is to share local information at a global scale. We envision building a platform that enables communities to help other communities about their animals. And end users, the way we see this working is end users can upload photos and images, photos and videos of their animals and their symptoms and stuff like that. They can add text and audio annotations to it, and then receive feedback from other community members, much in the style of Stack Overflow and Reddit. So our inspirations are Plant Village, for example, where farmers already can share images of their plants and leaves and get responses from other users, other farmers, and experts about possible actionable diagnoses for their plants. In addition, because we envision having all of our knowledge geotagged, this will allow us to inform other local users of new potential outbreaks that are happening, just like Nextdoor can be the social network for your local neighborhood. Our first user target, our first front-end user that we're hoping to target, are people like the cattle herders